here we are at the Mauer Park in Berlin. This is one of these blogs, a continuation of the blog talking about how to finance your company, how to finance your startup, from funding strategies to ideas to looking at what sort of things we have done in the past that we have been relatively successful or relatively comfortable with the return. So one of the things I ask myself as an entrepreneur is, how would you get funding? How would you support your team? How would you finance in a sustainable manner, in a sustainable way, the means and resources that are necessary for you to succeed in the long run? So, looking at financial opportunities in the UK sector that are not for academia or not focused on academic projects, but mostly for companies, mostly for entrepreneurships at any scale, meaning, from startups like the one we are discussing, Keep It Human, to large corporations. In a way, what I want to think about is how I could connect that experience to the kind of funding I have applied for in the last 25 years as an academic, mostly music, mostly related to concerts, projects, technologies, immersive technologies, in the context of audio, sound, and music. So innovation in my research is key to funding applications, personal, for the research center I work for. And I think this is also that the kind of entrepreneurial grants like the Smart UK are focused on, innovation, creating new ideas for the sake of building entrepreneurial opportunities and finding a niche in the market. Innovation not only in technologies, but it's methods, ideas, ways to look at the same thing in a different way. And I think in that sense, it's quite related to the kind of things I've been doing in the past, so I don't see this as a major problem. I think one of the key differences between applying for academic funding, AHRC, especially, is all sort of funding coming from the humanities and probably the social sciences as well, is that it has to do with the return. So when you apply for academic funding, normally the return is the project itself. So the project has to demonstrate value, impact, and so on, but I think it's mostly done as the means of returning this report at the end of the project, where you quantify the impact, saying, listen, we were committed to do this, and that, and we've done it, and we not only did what was expected, but also succeeded or expanded or exceeded what it was meant to be accomplished. I think and this is what they are expecting. I think in SMART is slightly different because innovative funds in the UK, basically they will give you money in return for future taxes or future income. So let's say you borrow 100,000, or you get funded 100,000 in this case. Your company could grow from 2-3 people to 20, meaning that the government, being a social funding, being a public funding body, the government will get returns from that investment, initial investment, in the form of your employees paying taxes, the company paying taxes, and so on. So they see this growth as the means for returning. And I think this completely changes the concept of what the application for funding is about, because it mostly dictates the agenda, meaning that growth is at the core of the proposition, and this is not something that you normally consider when you apply for academic funding. In general, the second aspect I found also quite divergent, quite different, is the strategy, the long-term strategy. So meaning that when we composers, we artists, technical innovators, normally it would be unfair to say that we don't think in the long run, but it's mostly we target specific things. With this, you compose this new project and then you just need funding to tour the piece for a year, or I don't know, just buy some technology, buy out the time for you to develop it. And then once the project is completed, you move into something else. So you can jump from music and sonification to a completely different project in a couple of years' time, as we did with regards music and analog synthesizers, or music and machine learning, artificial intelligence for music, and so on and so forth. So we are changing rapidly, but at the core of the whole thing is always this idea of testing and pivoting new musical concepts and ideas in different, around different technologies that can provide musical insights and composition insights to your practice. And this is not only in composition, but also in performance, in the form of literature as well. So you advance knowledge mostly, but you don't look in the big picture. You sort of target these plots of knowledge and objectives are quite focused. Whereas I think the strategy I've seen so far in terms of industry, it seems like this idea of the short-term objectives, it doesn't really work so well. It doesn't mean that it doesn't need to be really focused and have a very precise agenda, but it's mostly looking at the long picture. So meaning that it will be incorrect or not very efficient just to think in terms of short run. How am I going to finance my project in the next 3 months? How do I hire just a couple of people to complete the this part of the game, or whatever technology you want to implement? I think the idea is to build the basis and the pillars for the company to grow. That's my aim, and this is what I should be looking at in terms of building the foundations of how to finance the startup. What else? So another way to finance this will be the way video games are financed. Indie video games are financed, and indie companies mostly rely on crowdfunding. They also, when they get to a point where the game is successful and have enough traction, they also often get investment company from, publishers and things like that, and in terms of money or in terms of human resources, etc. So Innovation Factory is kind of a Y Combinator. It's kind of an investment company that is owned by the University of Manchester, but it's completely externalized. So it functions as an external company with 100% capital from the university. So they mostly deal with the identification of IPs within academia, within academic partners and academic colleagues at the university, and they find the financial resources and the routes to market to succeed in the form of a company. Obviously, this is mostly related to STEM subjects, so scientific knowledge, computer science, electronic engineer, physics, you name it. and they've been proven to be very successful. Manchester University is one of the largest entrepreneurial academic bodies in the UK. Extremely successful. I mean, graphene is just one example of the very many technologies that have been developed. But in the social sciences, I think we're just at the very beginning. So Keep It Human is a startup spin out from the University of Manchester at the intersections of video gaming and philanthropy. And it works in the context of the social sciences, I would say even the arts and the humanities context. So, meaning that yes, there can be an IP, an intellectual property coming out from, let's say, our products, but it's not necessarily technologically strong in the sense that we are building a new technology from scratch. Mostly what we do is just take technologies that already exist and amalgamate them together in the form of something that will serve a social purpose. So you may get, some advanced technology emerging from a game engine and then put that in the context of something else with some sort of financial method to pass, design the flow of the money from the player to the beneficiary, someone in a charity, someone in the realm of a charity work operating in a foreign country or locally, and then you use music as the glue, as the language, as the grammar for that to function, to trigger human emotions, to find ways to portray the narrative and the story. So, in a way, this kind of Y Combinator investment company do not really work so well in the context of the social sciences. I mean, this is it's not proven. It's just me thinking how easy, how clear the formula is for the social sciences, for the STEM subjects, for the scientific subjects, compared to the complexities and the means of working or operating with social sciences. Having said that, we've been working with Innovation Factory for almost 5 months. Very nice field, very good work, consistent work. Almost every week, every 2 weeks we meet. We have a meeting and then a follow-up meeting, working a very specific use case, which I may not be revealing at this stage, but just you can see progress. You can see that it's possible to scientifically map the diversity and complexity of the ecosystem, and then we can see that we can provide value to these specific ideas. And then, so you can see Keep It Human providing value to the whole chain, the whole ecosystem, but also thinking about how to scale that up and how to begin with the finances. If we were to follow this route, which is just another route for funding. So remember, we've been looking at grants, how grants compare to the kind of things we've been doing in the past, where we have been successful. Now we are looking at investment companies, so like a portfolio of a company or an investment company having a portfolio of startups that they want to invest, one of which may be this one. So normally the way they will finance your project is through loans. They may give you a little bit of money to fail fast, as they said. Iterate a few times the first few months, 15, 20K, who knows. But then the larger investment comes once you have the data, the resources, and the necessary data to say, well, we've done this, it really works, small scale, I think we can scale up now. So the rest of the funding normally will come as loans, meaning it's like more or less like you going to the bank and borrowing some money at some interest, but they also will give you expertise. So it's not like just giving you the monies for you to hire people and start building the product. It's also the fact that they will participate in the success. Of course, they will monitor a little bit what's, in terms of they want to know what's going on with the money. But I think I would say it's mostly for the good things, meaning that they will give you expertise about hiring people. For instance, the University of Manchester has a new program to hire computer science students for developing software and apps. And I think it's probably a good thing for us because they already have the ecosystem, and it's just a matter of saying, listen, we are looking for an expert on EOS or whatever technology related to Unreal or I don't know, some sort of web resource, and they will provide you with the students to do it. So students, it's good for the students, it's good for the ecosystem at Manchester University because it connects industry with the undergrads and the postgrads, and also it fulfills the whole purpose of being a funding body or a legal company. We at some point spun out from the university, so it's also looking at the university for their own resources. Then what do you do with this money and how do you give back? So you can give back just returning the loan, or you can also give back in terms of equity. So let's say you spun out the University of Manchester academic project, so you own the company, which is something around 75% is yours, 25% may stay at the university because they provided the means for you to create that company. I mean, this is rough numbers, but just imagine that percentage, 20-25%. Then if you receive a loan from these people, 100,000, 500K, depending on the stage where you are, 5 different stages, you may want to return that with equity at some point in exchange of shares. But obviously that would be quite costly at the very beginning for the kind of basically you're giving a lot for what you are getting, but at the same time they are giving you what you want and what you need, but they are taking high risks because they don't really know whether you're going to succeed or even if they're going to be getting equity of a company that is not going to go any further. So investments like to be safe, and especially when you're thinking about this extra thing that has to do with social, making social good, so that the economic returns probably are not as high as any other company, but they are also expecting you to deliver social entrepreneurship values that can be demonstrated, that it can be quantified. So that's the other option. Third option that is probably connected to the kind of company we are building, kind of a studio / video game company at the intersections of video gaming and philanthropy, benefiting these two markets. So on the one side, we provide young people with the ownership of social challenges, the kind of things they care about. They seem to have the conscious about willing to change the world, but they don't really, they get distracted and, let's say, disappointed in the way they can achieve these goals because they kind of end up to the conclusion that this is only, the corporations that that really make a difference at the end, so they don't really see much value of their protesting or doing all these forums online saying, yeah, we want this to change. At the end of the day, everything stays the same. So we want to provide a new tool through video gaming to directly pass income from, let's say, from the game to the social causes they really care about, and then you name them, from ecology to social justice, sports and education, for young people to be away from trouble, and so the list never ends. Shelter for new knowledge, food, rapid response to humanitarian crisis, but the likes of finding crowdfunding from new players is possible. It's really hard, and we've been observing and studying a few cases. It's possible. I think it's just that it takes time, and the return obviously is the game, but also all these sort of physical commitments that you have to provide at different stages, depending on how much money they're giving you to develop the product. From mugs to, I don't know, physical printed stuff, T-shirts and things like that. So it's quite costly, and I think the commitment is relatively short sometimes. So, and then you have to do that. On top of that, you have to build a game. But on the other hand, it provides a small team with the means for, let's say, to work on something quite specific for a couple of years, 1 year, 3 years. So this is an opportunity. What I've seen is really hard, and normally people fail the very first time, and then you need to have something that is already seen as something that people like to play. So 1 year after since we started TB World, I think we got traction. People love the game. We had got a few reviews and one prize for the best video game. So, but it's definitely not quite a game. It's more like an artistic product and a proof of concept that we're mostly trying to see whether an ecosystem with proxies will work within the game. So people play the game, you donate through the crowdfunding money for us to keep developing, and for us to provide the means for young people to play the game, earn rhythmic energy, and then convert this energy into a skateboard. So if you were to do that, you will be helping us to send a number of skateboards to an NGO in Mozambique called a Maputo Skate. So we did that, and it worked. So we completed the cycle from the crowdfunding to building the game, creating this illusion of that a young person can, by playing, could donate a virtual skate that we convert into a real one. We send the real skates to Africa, and they were received by our colleague there, Francisco Viño, and then they were given to the kids, not directly, but we also provided them with the 100% let's say autonomy to decide what is the best way to implement this fund, this help. So yes, so just to conclude, we have discussed 3 potential ways of funding your startup, thinking about where do you come from as an academic, and I will put many of the resources, the legal connections and the legal things in the description of this video, but mostly looking at academic grants, how to convert that into company grants, from AHRC to innovative UK smart grants that, with the help of some partners, we're sort of putting together. The second thing is how to fund your startup through investment funds. So this is a much more reliable long-term strategy. For example, kind of the Y Combinators for the social enterprise. The caveat to that is that they may have control of the company. They will give you loans. So the return is different. You may return just as you grow, just giving the money back, or if you prefer, you can surrender part of your equity in exchange for that initial help. And the last part was looking at crowdfunding, specifically in the context of video gaming, which is extremely hard, and then looking at the kind of things we've done, which is not just specifically to fund the game, but also to connect gamers with the ownership of social challenges, funding within the game through proxy a solidarity project elsewhere. So the question is not only how would you prove that this works. We already have an understanding of how this specific ecosystem worked, so meaning that we could design a different one and build it successfully, but also to say, well, okay, that's fine, but how do you pay your salaries? How do you find the means to keep with the development of the product, of the development of the video game, the marketing, the whole team that you have, because this is not cheap. So who is going to pay for that? So there are a lot of things to think about. Okay, so I think I'm going to stop here. It's time to move on. I'm getting hungry as well. Not far from home, but maybe next time I connect, I will be in a different part of Berlin, maybe another place I like. This is a beautiful park just built alongside the flea market, the Mauer Park. Weather is perfect today, so hopefully we'll see yourselves in my next blog, in my next section at the museums, island, or Kreuzberg, a park somewhere. See you soon. Bye-bye.